My grandmother, Barbara Ann Bolton Thomas, was born on January 15th in 1934 in Vernon, Texas. Gran grew up in Vernon and was the daughter of a grocery store owner and a hairdresser. When Gran was 19, she married her high school sweetheart, Howard Thomas, and they lived in 12 different states together, but eventually came back to Vernon and raised a family. My Gran and Papa were married for 51 years until Papa died in 2004. When I asked Gran about the most major event in her lifetime, she told me about losing her father when she was only 16 years old. She told me that losing her father was not only traumatic and heartbreaking, but also taught her the valuable lesson that she would never forget. This lesson she has passed on to her children and her grandchildren, including me. Gran says that losing her father so young taught her to value and appreciate the time she has to spend with people, and to always treat people with love and kindness because you never know how long you have. She talks about the verse that says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself," and how these are the two greatest commandments. She always tells me, "People, Katie Bethy, people are what it's all about." When I spend time with Gran, she makes me feel valued and important and loved in a way that not many people can. I know that the way I treat other people today and the way I value the time I have with my family and with others has been directly influenced by the example Gran has set. My granddaddy, Gerald Bennett Barrow, was born on July 19, 1932 in Fort Worth, Texas. My granddaddy started riding bulls in the rodeo when he was 17 years old. When Granddaddy was 19, he traveled up to South Dakota to compete in a rodeo there, and it was then that he met and fell in love with Charlotte Walker. Granddaddy married Charlotte Walker in 1951, and they moved back to Fort Worth to start a life and a family together. Benny and Charlotte had 3 kids by the time my granddaddy was 24 years old, 2 girls and a son with muscular dystrophy. When Granddaddy was 24, Charlotte was diagnosed with cancer and told that she didn't have long to live. My granddaddy and Charlotte sold their home in Fort Worth and drove to South Dakota with their 3 children to live with Charlotte's parents until Charlotte died. After living in South Dakota for 7 months, Charlotte passed away. She was 23 years old and my granddad was 25. Granddaddy cites Charlotte's death and his trip back to Texas with his 3 children as the most challenging and influential time of his life. He says that sometime during his journey back home, God revealed to him a calling for his life with a clarity that he had never encountered before. He says that it was on this trip back home that he thinks he truly believed and accepted Christ and decided that he was going to raise his children to be followers of the Lord. He says that the Lord provided a peace for him and a comfort in a time of his life where he felt the most helpless. A few years later, my granddad married my grandmommy, and together they had 3 more children. The youngest is my dad. Granddaddy raised all of his children to love the Lord and follow him. He set an example for the rest of his family in his faith that I know has shaped the way I am today. If he had not passed these values on to his son, I may not have had the blessing of growing up in a Christian home the way I did. An example of strong faith and a life devoted to the Lord was the best legacy my granddaddy could give to his children and his grandchildren.